Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's edition of Credential Chats from AACRAO. I am super excited to be joined this week by University Registrar from UNLV, Sam Fugazzotto. Sam, thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, thank you, Noah, for inviting me to do this.
Well, I'm really excited for our conversation today for just your approach and your really just systems approach is something that in our conversation really inspired me. And before we dive too into the weeds, maybe you could just set a little bit of the stage for us and share some context of where UNLV started out and where you are, because I think that you have a little bit of a building the plane while it's being flown kind of dynamic there that a lot of other people feel relieved to hear that they're not alone on.
We definitely have. That's an accurate analogy to use for what we're doing at UNLV. Micro credentials, I feel like they're not new. They're new to our space. We were kind of, trying to really fly a plane and keep building it. We're still building it. We are trying to kind of find ways to acknowledge the work that our students do, that students can do in kind of shorter stints, if you will, rather than a full-blown credential or even a full-blown certificate. We're trying to kind of package together courses into meaningful experiences that students can use to, stack toward maybe a certificate or a degree to use in the workplace, etc. So we've kind of really had to just dive in head first. It's, ideally, if we would have spent some time, a couple months, maybe planning things out, developing policies, which we did, but we also were kind of doing that as we were inviting faculty members to propose micro-credentials and start thinking about how their curricula could fit into kind of a micro-credential framework.
And I definitely would love to hear a little bit more about the framework and whatnot. But I heard you there lead with, we're doing this to help student to tell these things on behalf of our students, to package things for our students. And so, was that something that was just a central tenet for you, or is that something that UNLV naturally did to really center the student in all of this, effort?
I don't know that anyone, said, in those sort of mythical planning meetings, we're going to center the student. I think that's always been kind of unspoken. Really, we've been thinking about the student experience very much as we've kind of moved through this journey. Again, no one's articulated that, but we really are. It really is a student focused thing that we're doing here and trying to develop and refine micro credentials as well as the infrastructure behind them. We want this to be as transparent and easy, if you will, as possible for students.
Love that. Love that. And it also sounds like you're also doing that on behalf of faculty who, is another constituency who we serve. And also sometimes, we have to be careful about how we serve them so that, what we are doing, attempting to do for them doesn't come across as something being done to them. And so
Mhm.
maybe you could share a little bit about you referenced that proposal form and just kind of the structures and processes that you started with is, and feel free to share any kind of key design questions that you wrestled with along the way or opportunities where you realized we need to change up how we're doing this.
Sure, absolutely. I would say for any institution looking to implement a micro-credential policy or procedure, support from your academic faculty is key because, of course, they are going to be the ones teaching the courses and offering the experiences that make up micro-credentials. Many of them may have industry partnerships or, partnerships out there in the community that, um, speak to constituencies that they might serve with micro-credentials. So you really do need to have kind of that credibility with the faculty from day one. And we've really done that, and we do have very good faculty partners in general, so they were happy to join with us kind of in the design process and the procedure development process. We also had and have had really good blueprints. We have pretty well defined curriculum processes for proposing a course, proposing a traditional degree program, et cetera, or making changes to degree programs. So what we did for micro credentials is we kind of did a modified version of what we might do if you were to propose a new Bachelor of Arts degree in whatever area. And we kind of adapted it for micro credentials. Obviously, it's much more succinct, much shorter time frame to implementation because these are much shorter experiences than a 120 credit bachelor's degree program, but we were able to kind of piggyback on existing processes, existing procedures. So it wasn't like existing systems we use. I know they just rebranded, but it's Curriculog, and I think it's Modern Campus Curriculum now is what we're supposed to be call it now, but it's the same system. We ended up just designing the approval process within that. It's the same faculty governance bodies that will review micro-credentials that approve new courses and new academic programs. So that part of the process really was, as far as from my humble perspective, pretty easy because we had good governance structures already. I think we could have gone the more difficult route and just, I would never advise anybody do this, but mandate this, and that wasn't really the approach of the university. We really wanted to involve faculty.
And and I'm almost hearing you go back to where you kicked this off of. This is not new. This is just new to our space. So before we reinvent the whole wheel and potentially take ourselves down a road of micro-credential being this open sesame word to circumvent governance, that
Mhm.
at UNLV you said, let's look at some of the systems and processes we already have,
Mhm.
that we know work well, and leverage those so that we stick with existing governance practices that are familiar.
Exactly. And that really was our approach. I mean, I don't know why. I suppose an institution could choose to do things differently. I don't know that it would be really advisable. We did kind of I guess hit it big, if you will, with just being able to use what we already have. And then, I think the proof has been kind of in the pudding. We As soon as we opened, it's called a form in Curriculog. It's an approval form for a new program or whatever. I feel like as soon as we opened the form for micro credentials, we had we had a number of proposals for new micro credentials kind of, right out of the gate. So to me, that spoke to the fact that there was some enthusiasm built up on the faculty side for getting new proposals out there for micro credentials.
I kind of want to put a pin in that for a second because, a lot of us, where these efforts are being, led by or led with the Office of the Registrar, are in to different degrees on different campuses, roles of having to kind of have internal road shows of socializing and marketing these internally. And I'm kind of hearing you say that because of the way you stuck with the familiar and involving a lot of stakeholders in figuring out what this process would look like, that almost doubled as internal marketing, so that when as soon as you were ready to say green light go, there were folks lining up to cross that road.
I think that's accurate. Yeah, we did present it. I mean, our faculty senate meets once a month. The new micro-credential guidelines were presented there. So there, and they have that group has a cross section across the university. So it was shared broadly with the rest of the campus. We've had faculty involved from day one. Given some of the nature of some of the disciplines, there were sort of more natural partners, but it was shared widely across campus. We've not had to do a road show though and go college to college with this. I mean, the faculty who expressed the most interest, uh, given their disciplines, et cetera, they kind of were eager to they were chomping on the bit, frankly, I think in some cases.
I think that's really great. That is a great problem to have, and a real privilege. I think that a lot of people would be jealous of. I wonder about when you talked about building that plane when you fly it. You said it would have been great to have had a little bit more lead time up to getting started. But for other registrars who are listening to this and seeing a very familiar context, that they're looking in the mirror as they hear your story, what kind of insights can you offer them for how to go about getting comfortable with the discomfort of developing policy and structures and systems while also having to keep up with a plane that's already taken off?
Hello?
You're back.
Sorry about that. I don't know if that was me or you. Probably maybe me. I missed your question, Noah. You said for other registrars who, and then you cut out, or I cut out.
Not a problem. So, just thinking through the building the plane while you fly it, and how you would have liked to have had a longer, runway to get started with some of the policies and the systems, right, to come up with your procedures and your policy. What advice can you, or just reflections do you have for other registrars who are in a similar boat of, we're having to come up with these policies and procedures and systems while the plane is already in the air.
I would say, I mean, keep flying to sound kind of cliched or like a motivational speaker or whatever. Um, you do need to have, the rules, the guidelines, the policies, etc., but let you can't let sort of the perfect get in the way of the good or whatever it was. I know I'm forgetting that cliche. Um, you can always start with a policy or a procedure or a system that is not 100%, but if it's 75% or even 65%, I think that's a starting point because I feel like universities are going to, generally speaking, the industry, it'll move around you if you kind of move with it, work with it, keep flying, as I said. And I think that a lot of my colleagues here, we're kind of, that's our think, our sort of pragmatic way of thinking, like just keep moving ahead.
And I think that pragmatism is something that a lot of times the office of the registrar, that's a great place for us to be leaders on our campus of kind of you know not letting perfect be the enemy of good, and figuring out how do we keep this plane flying in a way that is still going to work for our users and our accreditors. I want to revisit one other thing that you brought up there, Sam, that we haven't heard yet on these, and really haven't heard anywhere. Is I think in a lot of campuses, you mentioned the faculty may already have industry and other key relationships. And I think especially on campuses where we are thinking about these, as possible, offerings that are done, not just in tandem with or in service of industry partners, and especially for those of us who may be looking at that as a sort of revenue vertical when it comes to micro credentials, that I have a sense that a lot of that is starting, kind of wherever there's enthusiasm around campus, and maybe there's a whole new position for it to make these connections. And I hear you saying similar to, hey, we don't have to reinvent the wheel with our governance process, that we may have existing legacy relationships with a lot of these industry partners, and we don't need to start from scratch there. Let's lean on the expertise and social capital of our faculty.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think that's true at any university. Depends on kind of I guess, the local economy around the university, prominent industries. But yeah, use your existing governance structures, use the relationships that faculty already have. I'm sure that's true at any institution where, faculty will have existing partnerships that are maybe looking for an outlet like a micro-credential.
And is it your finding at UNLV, whether by people have verbally saying it or just sort of anecdotally observing, that by actually including faculty like that, and them not finding out because somebody else reached out to their industry partner, but actually working with and through the faculty members, is that, are you noticing sort of benefits from that just to the change management practice of buy-in from these key stakeholders? The faculty see themselves being valued and are more inclined to value this new process.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I think it could have gone horribly wrong, as I said, if this had just been imposed, if we had not included faculty. The fact that we've worked with have been great. Like I said, they were ready to go with proposing new micro credentials. And I just, yeah, from a change management perspective, at any campus, having the faculty, even if it is just a few disciplines, I think having faculty members involved is going to make things a lot easier.
That's fantastic. And Sam, you've done all this work. I just in getting to know you, I'm really impressed with just your systems thinking, your approaches. For folks who are interested in kind of, getting a sneak peek at some of the work at UNLV, are there websites that they might want to go to, or ways to contact your office to sort of, find out how they can start closer to where you are than where you were when you got started?
They're welcome to write me. It depends on where they are in terms of the process. I can probably point them to the right resources. I think we're still working on some, publicly facing websites at least. But, for example, if they also use Curriculog, or even if it, whatever curriculum management process they have, or application they have, I could probably walk them through, what we do in curriculum, who has to sign off on this and that, this, that, and the other, as well as sort of our internal policies. So we ended up, for instance, in some ways, our micro credentials procedures borrow from our traditional degree procedures and policies. So we were able to adapt. Maybe that's appropriate in some campuses, maybe not. It really depends on what the campus is trying to do.
Awesome. Well, Sam Fugazzotto, University Registrar from UNLV, thank you so much for joining us this week on Credential Chats.
Sure. Thank you, Noah.
Thanks, everybody, for joining us on AACRAO's Credential Chats, and have a badge-worthy week, everybody. Bye-bye.
See you later.